Afflictions can be anything from diseases and poisons to curses and radiation. The type may differ, but they all work similarly and can definitely be a problem for you on your adventure. My name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's get into it. Afflictions, whatever type it is, can affect a creature for a long time, progressing through different stages and often being pretty debilitating. The level of the affliction is generally in line with the level of the part of the adventure you're in, meaning that if you come across a high level affliction, it's generally going to be in a high level monster or in a high level part of a dungeon or an area. And in the case of the spell, as well as all the other types, the level is listed in the entry for that particular spell or item. So let's go over just how it's going to appear. So in the afflictions entry, you're always going to get the name, level, and the traits. So there is a example in the core rulebook that uses arsenic. I'm going to use a different one, so you'll have multiple ones to look at, but I'm going to use breathtaking vapor here. So you are going to get the name, which in this case is going to be breathtaking vapor, as well as the level. This one here is an item 17. It is uncommon, the traits, alchemical, consumable, it is inhaled, and it is a poison. There are also virulent afflictions, and virulent will have a virulent trait here, and I'll give an example of that towards the end of this particular video. Also, in this first section, you are going to get a description of the particular affliction that you're coming across, as well as any specific things to that particular affliction. Like in this case, the fact that it is inhaled and creatures that don't breathe aren't going to be affected by that part of the particular affliction. Next, you're going to come across the saving throw. So when you're first affected by an affliction of any type, you must attempt a saving throw against it. The first attempt is to stave off even being affected by it whatsoever, and it's usually a fortitude save. However, always look at your description in order to make sure that you know what you're saving against. For example, if it's a spell, it might be against the spellcaster's DC. So on an initial successful saving throw, you're unaffected by that exposure. So you totally bypass whatever mechanisms are part of that particular affliction. You do not need to attempt further saving throws unless you are exposed to it again. And there is a case for multiple occurrences of that particular affliction. And once again, we'll get into that towards the end of the video. If you fail the initial saving throw, then you are now afflicted with the affliction. So using the same word twice in one sentence, but hopefully that makes sense. There will be an onset period in general, although there are cases where it won't, and I'll give an example of that as well. But if you do fail your initial saving throw, there is an onset period. In this particular case, it's 1 round. So after you fail, you don't immediately get the effects of the affliction. It's after 1 round goes through, then you will have to start doing your rolls in order to see what the stages are. Now, on a critical fail for the onset, it doesn't make the onset come faster. It's just you will go to a higher level stage. So, for example, let's say in this particular case of the breathtaking vapor that has an onset of 1 round. Well, if you critically fail, that doesn't mean that you immediately have the onset in that particular round. You still wait 1 round, but as opposed to being drained 1, you're going to be drained 2, and you're going to be in stage 2 of that particular affliction. So once again, for these particular afflictions with the onset time, it's usually listed if it has one. There are some that don't. Like a good example here is leaden leg, which is another alchemical poison that does not have an onset period. So if it doesn't have an onset period, that basically means that you get the effects for the first stage immediately upon failing the saving throw. Now, there will also be a maximum duration most of the time if the affliction lasts a limited period of time. So in this particular case, it is going to be 6 rounds. However, once that duration passes, it doesn't mean that everything that went along with that affliction is gone. Like in this particular case, you are drained, and the drain doesn't go away simply because the maximum duration of 6 rounds has ended. You still are going to be drained until you can recover from that condition. Now, an affliction typically has multiple stages, each of which lists the effect of that particular stage. And when you reach a particular stage of an affliction, you are subject to the effects listed in that particular stage. That kind of makes sense. If you're in stage 1, then the stage 1 conditions would apply to you. If you're in stage 3, then those particular conditions would apply to you. So at the end of a stage's listed interval, you must attempt a new saving throw, be it the fortitude save or the spell DC or whatever the saving throw might be in the description. On a success, you can reduce it by 1. On a failure, you can increase it by 1. On a critical success, you decrease it by 2. And on a critical failure, you increase it by 2. Now, in the case of a virulent particular affliction, you have to save twice or critical save to reduce by 1. So there is that change with the virulent one. The virulent one's just a little bit stronger. So just keep that in mind if you happen to see a virulent trait one. And once again, as we mentioned, a lot of times there will be conditions that are part of the particular affliction. In the breathtaking vapor case, it was the drain. So just because those 6 rounds ended doesn't mean the drain condition end. You basically have to get out of the drain condition in a normal way, or whatever condition that is on that particular thing, which is part of the condition and part of the condition's description on what it would be, how it affects you, and how you would get out of that particular condition. So the example here would be if an affliction causes you to be drained, but has a maximum duration of 5 minutes, well, you would remain drained even after that affliction ends. It's normal for the drain condition. So you need to succeed against the flat check for that particular condition in order to come out of it and basically go back to what your normal thing is. Now, there is a case for multiple exposures. So let's say you have a monster and they are casting a condition on, or casting an affliction on you, and let's say it's a disease or something of that sort. You have had that disease attempted on you and you saved. Cool. So on his next turn or next time he's able to cast that particular disease condition again, you do it again. You do have to re-roll and you can be afflicted. If you failed that particular first roll and you have been diseased and they do it again, being re-exposed does not increase the duration. You still have the same duration from the initial application. However, if you fail the saving throw against that particular one, it will increase the stage by 1 immediately, regardless of whatever the stage times might be. Now, just to highlight virulent afflictions, I'm going to bring up one specific example here, and that is Black Lotus extract. You can see it does have the virulent trait in the description there. And afflictions with the virulent trait, they're harder to remove. So in order to basically reduce the stage of the particular affliction, you need to make 2 consecutive saves as opposed to the one in a non-virulent poison, disease, or other affliction. And a critical save does not lower it by 2, it only lowers it by 1. So basically it needs 2 saves or 1 critical save to reduce the stage. So I hope this little talk on affliction maybe gave you some information or taught you something new or had you look at it a slightly different way. Remember, there is that example of arsenic in the book, and there are also multiple ones. A good one to look at if you want to see more examples of this. Once again, alchemists kind of have a lot going on with these particular types of things. And I hope you liked the video. And if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or go ahead and hit that notification bell. And whether you do or don't, I hope you have a good day and happy adventuring. Thanks.